Hello everybody, welcome to another Mr. Bun video. This video is all about how to find peer-reviewed sources and how to use the MLA format to figure out your works cited page and to create in-text citations, giving credit for another author's work. So here we go. A very good resource to use is Google Scholar. Google Scholar is going to take and really filter out some of the junk, some of the garbage, and give you good sources. Now, they're not necessarily all going to be peer-reviewed sources, but they are going to be typically decent sources. So one thing that I may want to research, I want to research biodiversity in parks. And, is biodiversity going to be higher in parks? Is it going to be lower in parks versus, different kind of natural areas like bioreserves or even cities? So one thing I could start to research, parks and biodiversity. Okay, so I'm searching this and, lots and lots of different results, okay? There's going to be magazines. There's going to be, landscape and urban planning. That could be a journal for, real fancy landscapers and, urban planners, but, not going to mess with that one first. One thing that struck my interest earlier was this right here, effectiveness of parks in protecting tropical biodiversity. That's super relevant to us because, right here in Ecuador, we're in the tropics. So let's click on that and see where it takes us. Okay, so what we've done here is brought up a journal site. This is the journal Science. And what we want to know is this going to be a peer-reviewed article? Okay, now peer-reviewed articles are written typically by researchers, by experts, and then they're going to be reviewed. To get it published in a journal, in a peer-reviewed journal, these authors are going to mail it in, and different other scientists, other experts are going to read it and critique it and really try to pick it apart and figure out, does this make sense? Did their methodology, did their research, even their statistics, does it all make sense with what they're saying? Is it going to be quality? And typically, when we use the peer review process, it means quality. It means that what we're going to read is going to be factual. It is not going to be super biased. It's not going to be, some just clickbait garbage. So what we want to do is figure out, is this indeed a peer-reviewed article? Okay, first of all, one thing we can do is look at the website. The website isn't going to have a lot of advertising. There's one up here, but we can just get rid of that. There's not a lot of fluff to the website. Right here, some hints that we can find. This is going to be a periodical. It's going to be, very old, volume 291. So it's been out for a long time. Okay, those are going to be some good hints. We can look and, if it's going to have an abstract, that's a good sign. Just a newspaper article or just, an encyclopedia article or something is not going to have an abstract. An abstract is basically a summary of what the whole paper is going to be about. Okay. So we can start to dig around the website just a little bit to figure out if this journal, Science, is indeed if it is indeed going to be peer-reviewed. Okay, so just investigating around, archives and current issue, probably not going to tell us a whole lot. Sometimes if you can look in the very beginning of a journal, you can see if it's peer-reviewed. It'll say it in the first couple pages, or even on the in the index or in some of the descriptive kind of pieces. But we want to click on some of this stuff over here. We're going to explore the journal Science. Nice bird picture there. But if we look on some of their information, a lot of this stuff will give us a clue of whether or not it is peer-reviewed, whether or not actual legitimate scientists have read this paper, have approved it, have given their stamp of approval. This is good stuff before Science looked at it. So we can look in the mission. We're looking for certain words, certain phrases. We're looking for peer-reviewed acknowledgement here. So this talks all about it. Good. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but sometimes if I look more in the about sections, especially information for the authors. So there are all, policies for publishing and things like that. I can find some good information, maybe even editorial policies. So if I click there on editorial policies, it tells me a little bit about the journal, some of their philosophies, um, how they're going to get reviewed, different bits and pieces of the journal. Talks about what it takes to be an author there. Talks about conflict of interest, super interesting and super important to avoid bias. This journal requires the authors to say, this is who we're affiliated with. This is who pays us our paychecks, our salaries, or even funding. Where did we get money from this? Is it going to be from some fossil fuel company or from some super environmental group? What kind of bias, what kind of implied conflict are we going to have here? Okay, and we keep on looking down. We're looking through, we're finding more information, we're learning more about this journal. It is a quality journal. We can tell by all of the information that they're giving us. They're very, very transparent. And then we look right here what talks about reviewers, and we see reviewers from the cornerstone of the peer review process. Okay, so there we go. Excellent. This is a peer-reviewed journal. We can use it. It's going to be of high quality. Now, let's go back to the actual abstract. It's not going to be a full article. Quite often, the full articles are going to be pretty expensive. We're not going to be able to purchase them. So you can use the abstract. The abstract is going to tell you basically what the scientists did in their experiment, what they learned, what they got of value. And even if you're just using the abstract, once again, as always, if you use someone's words, someone's work, someone's information, someone's ideas, you have to give them credit. And that's why we use the MLA format for in text citations and for our works cited page. And all of that information can be found right here. This is not, we're not going to go into detail on how to write those, but eventually where you're going to need the title of the article that was written, the title of the journal, which was Science. We know when it was written, January 2001, so it's kind of old. When I made this video right now, it's going to be, 19 years old. Volume, issue number, when it was made, and the page number. That's going to be interesting. Even if we're using an electronic version of a print journal, we still are going to need that. Okay, here is the actual journal. This is what it's going to look like. Super pretty. I don't know what's going on there. Looks like some kind of cell, some kind of input. Not really sure what's going on with the cover, but that's the actual print version. You can get copies of this print version. So all kinds of important information right there. Now, if you can't investigate the actual physical journal, if you can't hold it, if you can't find the information from the journal's website, another very useful site is this site here, LetPub. Basically, this is a site that's generated towards scientists or other folks in academia who want to research different journals. They want to, find out, is it a legitimate journal? How often is it produced? What are the chances of me getting accepted in this journal? So we can search our journal name, like this journal, Science. Let's search and see what happens. Okay, it pops up and it tells us, well, it's a multidisciplinary journal. It's going to be, pretty much about science. And here, this is pretty important information. It says review period. That's going to indicate how long it takes from submission to when, it could possibly be published. So that's some good information right there. Some of these aren't going to have a review period, which is, definitely going to be a red flag. Now, this isn't going to tell you 100% if it's a quality peer-reviewed journal, but the neat thing is we can click on it and explore a little bit more. All kinds of important information, all kinds of interesting information is going to be right here to help us make a decision. Is this a quality piece of literature that I should use, and is it going to be peer-reviewed? Now, going back to giving credit. Once again, if in your papers, in your projects, in your reports, whatever, if you use someone else's work, if you use their words, if you use their ideas, any of this stuff, you have to give credit, okay? And the way that we give credit, the way that many schools and universities will use a crediting system and a certain writing format is called the MLA, okay? And that stands for Modern Language Association. Look how much fun these people are having. Ha 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 ha. We love ruining students' lives with MLA. But anyway, it's a group of writers, of folks in academia who are going to say this is a way to write. This is how we're going to format our papers. We're going to organize our papers. And also, most important for us, how we're going to give credit in our in-text citations and in our works cited page. Now, another excellent website for you guys to use is a website from Purdue University. They have what's called the Online Writing Lab, OWL. Woo-hoo! I think I just realized that it was OWL, Online Writing Lab. But anyway, the Purdue OWL is an excellent, excellent, excellent resource for you to figure out how to make sure your paper is in the proper format and how to give credit and not get in trouble for, any kind of academic dishonesty. Okay, so we search around and we are going to use, once again, the MLA guide that tells us, all kinds of important information about how to write our papers. But what's most important for us is how we're going to give credit. Okay, we're going to give credit using MLA In Text Citations. That's where if you use someone's information, you immediately are going to give the author's name and the page number. That says, this is not my work, this is someone else's. So once again, author's name and page number. And then at the very end of our paper, that's when we are going to put a works cited page. Some people call it, a source list or a bibliography, but in MLA format, we use the works cited page. That's the exact phrasage. So this is a super, super, low battery. This is a super, super good resource for you to use, okay? It talks exactly how we should give credit while writing our paper with in-text citations. All the information we need is right here. We can go and click and explore. And then it talks about how we should do our works cited page. That article that we just looked at from Science, those scientists worked really, really hard writing that. They spent lots of money, lots of time, lots of energy, probably neglected their college students to write it. So we have to give them credit. It's very, very important that we give credit and we use the proper format. So lots of good resources we talked about. We talked about how to use Google Scholar, how to find peer-reviewed articles in Google Scholar. It takes a little work sometimes, but it's well worth it. And how to use the Purdue OWL for figuring out all about the MLA, the Modern Language Association's writing format for giving credit. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or to email, or even check out a little document that I've prepared. A lot of this stuff is stolen from the Purdue OWL, but it kind of simplifies and gives lots of examples of how to format your paper, how to give credit where credit is due. Okay, thank you very much.